And I want you to hear this, okay? First of all, ownership takes full responsibility for where we are. To win 8 games in 2 years is horrible. It's totally unacceptable, okay? And it's not going to continue, okay? And I want the fans to know we are as frustrated as you.
The Cleveland Browns did not simply dismiss Kevin Stefanski from his position. They detonated the last excuse that was still available. Stefanski was portrayed as the adult in the room, the stabilizer, the culture builder, and the individual who was supposed to finally put an end to Cleveland's never-ending quarterback carousel for a period of 6 seasons. Even though they had won 2 Coach of the Year awards and made 2 appearances in the playoffs, the Browns were still in the same position they had been in when the smoke cleared on the 2025 season. A shattered offense, a fractured locker room, and a rookie quarterback who is forced to survive chaos rather than being developed within structure are all consequences of this situation. Moreover, this is the point at which the story truly starts, because at the very moment that Stefanski was terminated, another shocking realization came to light. Kevin Stefanski found that Shedeur Sanders never let him down. Shedeur Sanders was not successful with Kevin Stefanski. Fans of the Browns were taught to be patient throughout the entire season.
2026 draft class is why Shedeur will be the starter for the Cleveland Browns next year.
Absolutely.
That's what it is. There is no bona fide Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. If those people were coming out, Shedeur didn't do enough to be the starter for next year. But since those individuals are not coming out, I'm starting Shedeur. I'm drafting a first-round pick wide receiver. I'm drafting a first-round pick offensive lineman. I'm building this team around Shedeur, and I'm seeing how far Shedeur Sanders can take me. And if he can't take me that far, then I'm trying to see if I can get Arch Manning the following year, if Arch Manning is what everybody believes Arch Manning can be. But with this draft class coming up, hell no, Shedeur's a guy.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie. When I watch the tape, I didn't see enough improvement from Shedeur to say, you know what? I love this kid as my future. I'm not looking at anybody else. I didn't see all that. But I saw enough to say, you know what? He might be able to get me 7 to 9 wins next year if I shore up that offensive line, if I shore up my wide receiving core. Quinshon Judkins, if he comes back healthy, he might be able to get me 7 to 9. I like Isaiah Bond as a number 3 and what he can do. I love Harold Fannin. David Njoku, solid player. I don't mind Jerry Jeudy as a number 2 or a number 3 either. So Shedeur did enough to stave off a bad quarterback.
I informed the system. Instead of being given the authority to win football games, a quarterback is having to work hard to avoid losing the trust of his coach. Stars are not constructed in such a manner. Exactly like that, confidence is eroded in this manner. Despite this, Shedeur Sanders continued to find moments, even the significant ones, even within that chaos. What you said about Kevin and how much you learned from him and the crew to better understand each other is something that we are aware of. You said it yesterday after the game. In light of the fact that he is no longer your coach, what are your thoughts and feelings? The information was just brought to our attention a few seconds ago, but I believe that it is more of a general mentality that things are going to take place. There was no chance involved. These were glimpses of what occurs when instinct takes precedence over restriction.
I know your dad was pissing you off during the game.
Oh my God.
You did so good.
All right, you gotta stop.
You did. You did.
Moms always say
that's why it's like, it'd be hard to even talk.
No.
Dad gonna do too much, so I definitely, I don't even want to talk. She gonna be the nice one. He gonna be overly trying to coach you.
As a result, the dismissal of Stefanski brought about a sudden and profound change. What are your thoughts on the decision to move on from this situation, RC? The first thing that comes to mind after listening to Shedeur Sanders is that it is abundantly clear that Kevin Stefanski and Shedeur Sanders are not connected in any way. There was not a relationship that needed to be carried over to the following year in that particular situation. If you are going to have Shedeur Sanders as your head coach, then Kevin Stefanski is qualified to coach football.
what you said yesterday after the game about Kevin and how much you learned from him and grew to understanding each other. What's your reaction to the news that he's no longer your coach?
We just found out a couple seconds ago, but I think it's just overall the mentality, like things gonna happen, that's just how the league is, and moving forward, just focus on, what we can improve, individually for the next head coach.
Shedeur, do you think you did enough to show everybody, like,
Kevin Stefanski is very knowledgeable about offense, and I believe that he is also knowledgeable about leadership. In the year 2020, he was able to accomplish a lot with Baker Mayfield. In the year 2023, he was able to accomplish even more with Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson, who were both injured. Putting him in the appropriate position is going to be the focus of this endeavor. For the Cleveland Browns, this is something that I consider to be an organizational matter. In the event that Andrew Berry continues to hold the position of head coach, and if he is going to select the next head coach for Jimmy Haslam's team, it is imperative that he selects the most suitable individual for the position. You will then be required to make a decision regarding whether or not Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of the future. Because the next head coach that you bring in will also need to be on board with that decision in order for it to be appropriate, the issue at hand is not limited to merely replacing Kevin Stefanski. This entire organization needs to be restructured because, over the course of several decades, the results that we have witnessed from this organization have been nothing short of underachievement par excellence. Because for the very first time since Shedeur arrived in Cleveland, the organization does not possess any shields, does not have any systems, does not have any coaches with vision, and does not continue to bury development behind conservative play calling and mixed messaging. Having avoided answering the question throughout the season, the Browns are now compelled to provide an answer. What would Shedeur Sanders be if Kevin Stefanski were not present? In addition, the early response is unsettling for a great number of individuals due to the fact that Shedeur stopped speaking in the manner of a novice who was vying for approval as soon as the season came to an end.
You said something that I thought was asinine. It's automatic that he's going to be a head coach in the league next season. No, it isn't. And I'm going to tell you why. 6 seasons in Cleveland, 13 quarterbacks. Somewhere along the way, do I not get to look at you as a head coach and say, could you find somebody? Could you find anybody? Anybody? I'll throw the names out for you. I got them right in front of me.
Okay.
Case Keenum, Nick Mullins, Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco, P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, okay? I get that it's a tough list. I understand that. But you're talking about 3 or 4 people in there that could help you look a little bit better than you look. Excuse me. If you had kept Baker Mayfield, it might have happened. Hold on, wait a minute. You can say it's Kevin Stefanski. If you're telling me he has no say, if you're telling me a 2-time coach of the year is forced to be mute and have no impact whatsoever, I'm with you. But if he has...
When he spoke, he sounded like a quarterback who is well aware of his identity. There are no feelings, no resentment, and no excuses. Only work that is significant. However, if he is able to speak, this league devours quarterbacks who are unable to emotionally endure conditions of instability. Greater numbers of young passers have been destroyed by Cleveland than by any other franchise in modern football. Shedeur, however, did not fall apart. He did not point or blame anyone. It is not true that he fired shots at the staff. He admitted his own growth, took responsibility for his mistakes, and maintained his self-assurance. That is extremely uncommon. When it comes to the numbers, let's be honest. A record of less than 500 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions as a starter. Although it appears to be average at best on paper, football is not played on spreadsheets despite appearances. It is played in brief intervals. Shedeur was the only player who was able to provide the Browns with answers, and even more importantly, answers that were genuine. Not the plan, not the coaching staff, not the highly experienced leadership, and not the inexperienced individual. And at this moment, the Browns find themselves at a fork in the road that they cannot avoid. They have the ability to draft another quarterback, reset the clock once more, and once more pretend that the issue was talent rather than development. Alternately, they could finally take actions that are bold. It is possible for them to work around the quarterback that they already have. Because I am telling you the truth, as far as the front office is concerned, no one is willing to publicly acknowledge that Shedeur Sanders has already won the locker room. Those on the team have faith in him. He is respected by veterans. Despite defenses, he is acknowledged. But perhaps most importantly, he does not give up when things do not go as planned. That is the fundamental quality that every quarterback used by a franchise possesses. Developing one's armed talent is possible. One is able to clean up their footwork. Over time, decision-making skills will improve. Confidence, presence, and command are qualities that you either possess or you do not. Shedeur is in possession of it. In addition, Kevin Stefanski was never able to unlock it. His offense never reached its full potential. With Shedeur, his leash was shorter than it had ever been with veterans who only produced a smaller amount of work. On the sidelines, his body language conveyed a message that the fans did not want to come to terms with. Not a single belief was the foundation of this marriage. Although it was a trial run, there was a lot of hesitation. That is not the way that greatness develops. There is now an opportunity for the Browns to start over with the story. With the arrival of a new head coach, a fresh offensive voice, and a blank slate, Shedeur Sanders is suddenly no longer faced with the challenge of fighting against his own sideline. Everything is going to be determined by this offseason. It is possible that Shedeur's leap will be enormous if the Browns hire a coach who is committed to vertical passing, tempo, creativity, and quarterback empowerment. We are discussing a jump that occurs in the second year that alters the way that this franchise is perceived throughout the league. However, if they were to hedge once more, if they were to split reps, if they added unnecessary competition, or if they attempted to protect him rather than unleash him, then Cleveland would be entitled to exactly what it is going to get next. Due to the fact that Shedeur Sanders did not request an explanation, it was a request for an opportunity. And now that Kevin Stefanski is no longer with the Browns, they no longer have the ability to conceal themselves behind coaching philosophy. The front office, the ownership, and the next hire are all the focal points of attention right now. Either they make a commitment to the quarterback who has already made it through their dysfunction, or they demonstrate once more that Cleveland does not destroy quarterbacks by accident. They do it against their will. When it comes to the rest of the league, this is the most terrifying part. If Shedeur Sanders is finally able to find a coach who has faith in him, then the focus of the story will shift away from survival. This turns into a takeover situation.